Hi everyone, it is Dr. Deborah Pacheco, your transformational speaker and author of the upcoming book, The Love I Longed For. So I like to post things pretty frequently, and today I was trying to come up with an idea and I got a phone call from a friend, and after I hung up, I realized this is probably what I should talk about today, okay? No relationship is perfect. You don't need me to tell you that. You've lived it, you understand it. I'm not here to convince you of that. But what surprises me a lot, I think, is how many relationships I thought would last forever. When I get into a relationship, especially when I was younger, it would be so fun and exciting and rewarding, and I would be thinking to myself, I'm so happy I found this person, my permanent BFF, my permanent partner, my permanent spouse, and I was wrong. I never imagined loving someone and leaving. I never imagined someone in my adult life would love me and decide to leave. That idea didn't fit into my orbit because I was, especially as a younger person in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I was prone to being highly idealistic. And I'll be honest with you, every relationship that I was ever walked away from, or every relationship that I was forced to walk away from, and I had really loved that person or cared for that person deeply at one time, it was pretty gut-wrenching. There's always that moment. It's so sharp and so painful when you realize you've crossed a line in your relationship and there's no going back with the person. That moment, I think it breaks a little something inside of you. Well, yet this is life. This is what happens in life. Nothing is permanent, but still, don't we love a fighter? When we find out that someone has a challenge or a problem, we're in love with the idea of being friends with someone who's a fighter. We're wired to love a fighter. Guys, it's in our DNA. Thousands of ancestral survival instincts are popping up inside of us and are at play, because back in those days, when people were fighters, they were survivors and their DNA lived on for another day. And we today in modern culture, we like to know that people have fought for things that matter to them. We want to believe that if something actually did wind up falling apart, it wasn't because it was just carelessly trashed and thrown away as if it never mattered. Because to us, if someone walks away from a relationship too easily, it makes us uncomfortable. It makes us think that maybe the person is thoughtless or careless. And we really don't like that, do we? So I'm talking to my friend today and I'm thinking, when someone we care about is in their grief, they're telling us a story about a relationship ending. It could be a work relationship. It could be a neighbor relationship. It could be a sibling relationship. Really, it could be anything, right? Anything that we identify as being a relationship. And they're sitting in their grief and they're telling us a story about how the relationship ended, their perspective, what they think happened, what they think the other person was thinking, what they were up to. What they're really telling us is the story of their grieving. And what happens with us is sometimes our brain goes into overdrive and we start to troubleshoot and we start to think about how we can help them, perhaps unsolicited. I've done that so many times, especially with my kids. It's like my brain is just a runaway train and it just starts going, and I've tried to train myself and I've gotten better at stopping that. But the truth is, our brain loves solving problems. It's not anything to be ashamed of. It's the way that we're hardwired through our DNA. We want to understand what happened. Part of why we want to understand what happened is because we don't want to repeat the same pain this person is experiencing. And so if we listen carefully, we're listening for clues about our own future. And that's about our own survival as well as survival of others. So how do we show up in a space with someone whose life is falling apart according to them, the way that they're experiencing it, the way that they're perceiving? How do we show up for them when there's that one relationship or that perfect job that they thought that they had and it meant the world to them? And maybe it meant the world to us too, and now it's ended and they're sitting in our living room drinking a cup of tea, or maybe we've cracked open a bottle of wine. I don't know, but let's be honest. When the people that we love are in loving relationships, whether it is a boss or a job or a partner, we also over time tend to fall in love with that as well. And so we have shared the experiences, we have learned the inside jokes, we've learned nicknames, the holidays, the beach days, maybe even Sunday afternoon barbecues, the text threads, somebody saying, hey, would you mind picking up so-and-so at school or giving my mom a ride to the store? And when the relationships end, we don't lose just that person. Our friend doesn't just lose that person. We lose a part of the rhythm, a part of the norm of our lives, and it's very unsettling. So of course, we're highly motivated to help them fix it if it's at all possible, because we also don't want to lose. We also don't want to grieve what has been. We also want to avoid the sleepless nights, the worrying about that person. How will they pay their bills? How will they keep their home? How will they keep their kids in the schools that they've selected for them? And all of those things. So we start to suggest things that they haven't tried, right? Because our brainstorm ways to save the relationship and keep them from suffering, and therefore also us from suffering. What's strange is that we don't always realize our motivation to give advice and be involved isn't always about the other person, although we come towards them that way. And we don't want to lose our world. We don't want who we've loved and what we've loved to change also. So, heck, how painful is it when we do lose? Sometimes we lose without warning. We don't get the chance to say goodbye. In the case of people breaking up in love relationships, maybe something very painful has happened in that process to our loved one, and they don't want us to have anything else to do with that person. And we're stuck in a place of not getting to grieve the relationship, not getting to say goodbye, wanting to be able to have closure for ourselves. And then the most important part of it, and we know this, is to honor the request of our loved one. Hey, please don't go out to lunch with that guy anymore. He cheated on me. Or, hey, I found out that she was using my credit cards to pay someone else's bills, her ex-boyfriend's bills. Please don't contact her anymore. And please don't let me see you at Starbucks with her, okay? It's heart-wrenching to have shared holidays, laughter, car rides, all of these things, and then one day they're all over. And we find ourselves wanting to give advice. But here's the thing, guys. This is something I learned the hard way. We have to ask permission, okay? It might sound like this. I've heard what you're saying, and there's an idea that is coming up inside of me that I was thinking I might share. Would it be helpful for me to share that idea now, or would you prefer I just listen? Okay? Or maybe it sounds like this. That sounds really difficult. I don't really have any idea what it feels like to be going through that. I do have a few thoughts, but I know you didn't ask me for advice, so I'm checking in with you. Would you like me to share them? Or should I just keep them in my back pocket for another day or for the 5th of February? And then, whatever they say, honor that. That's difficult, right? If you are a take charge person like me, if you're a problem solver like me, maybe you grew up being the voice of reason in your family home, it's very difficult to sit back and just let what's going to happen happen. But this is not your story. You are in it, and it feels like it's part of your story because you're feeling emotional about what's going on. But you always have to ask permission to give advice. And when I have failed to do that, I've always lived to regret it. Conversations get cut short. People don't call me next time. And it's kind of embarrassing. And I recognize that that's something that I needed to work on. So the moment of permission is so powerful for another reason, because it says, I see you. I hear you. I know this is yours. And it shows that even when someone is pouring out their heart to you, that you recognize that there are boundaries. Just because someone has come to you with their heart in their hand doesn't mean it's yours to take. And by the way, we should never be taking something more than someone has to give, okay? When someone comes to you in a moment of weakness like this is no time to make a power move. It shows that they don't owe you more than they can give right now, and that you're really there just to witness what's going on and not to fix it. And when you do that, when you ask permission, when you honor someone's process, listen to this, guys. You are giving them the dignity to own their own story. When you can sit with someone in one of the worst moments of their life and not edit their thinking, not tell them how to think and feel, not offer platitudes like, let's say a prayer, but rather ask, is there something I can do now that would be helpful to you? It may be saying a prayer with them, depends on the person. It could be making them grilled cheese or watching their kids for them that night, but you have to ask. So you're saying you're in control here. I respect that. And this is where it all comes together. And I really love this part, because this whole conversation, it's not just about relationships breaking up. It's about how we show up in our loved one's life when relationships do break up. It's about how deeply we are motivated to resist grief, even when it's not ours directly. It's about how we try to hold other people's relationships together just so we don't have to face the pain of change and loss in our own lives. Because our DNA is hardwired to want us to survive, and when something feels negative or icky, we resist against that. But of course, we go on later to learn that we can do hard things and we can get through it and we survive, and we use our thinking brain a little more and realize that's not very practical. Maybe you know more about loss than the person that's sitting across from you or the person that's on the other end of the phone. And maybe you just need to realize that what they need from you is, this is cool. Listen to this. They need to feel safe. They need to feel held, not interrogated, not questioned, not criticized, not given next action steps. In that moment of chaos for them, what they need from you, and this is such a compliment, guys, the reason they reached out to you is in that moment, they perceived you as a person of permanence. They perceived you as a person of permanence, someone who's not going to abandon them, someone that's not going to walk away from them when they're in their worst spot in their life, okay? So it's such a compliment. And you don't have to say, I'm here for you. I'm the steady one. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you not to say those words. I would encourage you to avoid making any promises in that moment, because you don't have to overreact or over-respond. You simply just have to be. You have to show up in a way that just feels authentic and quiet. That, my friend, is how you help someone survive a soul-cracking, life-upending breakup of a job, of a relationship, not by saving it, unless you've been asked for ideas about how to do that, invited by the person, by letting them know that they haven't lost everything, by letting them know that they haven't lost everyone, that all hope is not lost, by reminding them simply through your quiet and dependable presence that they have good judgment, okay? They have a fine mind, they're good thinkers, they're good problem solvers. They, above everyone else, know what's best for them, and you support them and you honor them in that. And that they had a good judgment to make a friend, you. Again, we don't say this, but we model it by showing up. Or that they had the good judgment to think of you as a parent or a grandparent that would be able to show up for them in their time of need. Again, we don't say that. We live it. Okay, we model that way. And that, my friend, is my thought for the day. Okay? I hope everyone is doing well. Please like and follow and share my videos with your friends who you think it might be helpful. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. See ya.